38 foot 6 inches.
Dollar General goes through. I can't remember.
It postponed again.
Pardon me?
It got postponed again.
Oh, it did.
Oh, where did I do that?
It's just Colorado there.
We're up and running, so I don't know who wants to do it.
We had to start the March 14th. April.
Yeah, it's because I wrote March. Because I wrote March, I'm sorry.
You know what?
You know what? I apologize. My mind has not been here, so.
April 14th, 2023. Well, we're thankful for another day that we actually were able to wake up and live out this day. We're grateful. And thank you that we had this opportunity to discuss business and economy, and I pray that you would let us ability to make wise choices and decisions. And pray for all of those workers that work in this area and many are sometimes in harm's way, and pray for protection. This time to do our best to glorify God and say we did
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Yes. Rob Steele.
Here.
Mark Gary. Denise Spooner.
Here.
Jerry Alexander.
Present.
Lindsey Brown. Tom Shepard.
Here.
Olivia Pratt. John Zimmerman.
Here.
And Wes Likens. Thank you.
And we do not have the minutes, correct?
Correct. I apologize for the.
Probably, since we don't have our president and vice president, just probably take a quick vote on who's like John, I assume.
Alright.
Who's seconded that? I heard two people. Olivia? Okay. Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moratorium. That's the issue.
I don't know why that's on.
Because it has to be voted on and signed. It was not done at the last meeting.
Well, that's you didn't have an executive session. In lieu of minutes for
Oh,
executive
okay.
session, you have a
Yes.
memorandum of executive session. Yeah. It says that the only thing that was discussed is what we were allowed to discuss. Yes. You need to be a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of executive.
I don't have it.
You don't have to.
No, that's what. Oh, we do have it.
It's in your packet. It should be in your packet. If not, I'll give you one.
And it just states that Madison County Planning Commission hereby certifies that no subject matter was discussed in the February 14th, 2023 executive session, other than the subject matter specified in the public notice. of such executive
My apologies. I failed
session.
today.
We need to vote to accept that. Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we accept the memorandum as written this evening. Council.
Second? I'll second. We'll say, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I had seen.
Stacy Roberts, staying on that.
Thank you.
Now you're.
So, good morning. First of all, new business. The petitioner for petition 2023-Z002, Path to Prosperity, has requested we continue till the May meeting. They would like some additional time to talk to people, gather information. So they requested continuance, and I believe Jeff will do
Motion? Motion on the floor that we continue 2023-Z-002.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then so old business is the continuation of the Drew's Parks petition for rezoning from light industrial to general industrial to bring into compliance in the light industrial zone district. So, I'm not going to belabor the history of this, but I will restate the staff position, which is kind of my position, not kind of, it is my position on this, that an unfavorable recommendation be sent to the Board of Commissioners. I don't believe that rezoning this property to heavy industrial is going to, in the long run, benefit the community, and I'm not sure in the short run it will address the problem. I believe it should be sent with an unfavorable recommendation. Operation, the work to fit the zone or not exist. The technical review committee did review this, and they had a favorable recommendation, citing investment in the property, a number of areas fairly nearby that exhibit the same. Look at the map, there's right across the Scatterfield Road from Drew's, there's a site that looks the same on the aerial. So there's not just similar function would exist. And then you all had your discussion. I'll take any questions.
I don't want to talk about it out loud. Yeah. That's everything. I want to put this to we maybe talk about this offline and discuss this in a regular session. I'm not one black. I'm gonna pass it around to everybody. I think this is kind of serious.
And, although this is, doesn't necessarily miss litigation.
Right.
But under certain provisions of the executive session code, that's what we need to do.
Because I don't want, I mean, this has something to do with this situation, right? So I don't want to.
Indirectly, it does.
Yeah.
But more has to do with the inner workings of the commission.
Accidentally pass it on to Mrs. Turner.
Oh. Yeah. I would make a motion to basically, this was the
Technical review committee.
technical review committee based on their recommendation that we pass on this particular petition 20-22-B-0 to the commissioners for a favorable recommendation. Mr. Lee, second.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Second that.
Discussion.
All right. So, based off of the technical review committee, comments or suggestions, it should be actually be null and void because of, what's invested in that property. Because that's fact. If we didn't want to find the email that our actually planning director did back in 2001, when he emailed out and basically said that this property should not be in this position, then no money, no matter how much, any money is put into a property does not make it, quote unquote, legal. And so if I put $1 million into my yard, I should not be able to put a skyscraper on my property and say it's legal in the county without going through the proper check. When we cannot say that based off of the email that we have from Brad Newman back then, we cannot say that nobody did not know or the petitioner did not know what he was doing was illegal on that property. So when you guys look at this and you vote on it, you gotta look at the legality of it. Because right now, this is actually putting this commission as well as this department to a bad situation. And there's a bad situation that can impact you in the long term financially. Because right now, what this says is, lets us know that we didn't do our job. I'm saying we as the entire commission and we as a department, even though Larry Craig was not there. So that puts us legally right in the mix of the fire score for Madison County. So when you vote on this, you can't vote from, I guess, I would vote for right or wrong, not vote on anger or frustration, because you might be angry at a certain group of people, or you might be frustrated at butthurt, somebody might talk to you. You have to do what's right or wrong for the community. And looking at this right here lets us know that we did not do our job. And we did not support our past planning commission to do his job. So be cautious what you vote for, doing this for favors or whatever. Be cautious. This is actually going to hurt in the long run. This whole entire war. It's going to hurt this county financially. I don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody sent a copy of it, of the email that transpired back in 2021, acknowledging that we were very much aware of the situation. So, we just stopped again, we didn't. We keep the keys, we don't like, we won't take the problem. That's what it's doing.
You know that I was provided something like, before I sat on this planning commission in September 2021. And so I called the attention to the fact that Brett really did do his job, and I'm not willing to recommend the cause to say that he wasn't. Read this email, it says clearly how he defined Bruce Parks and said what other your operations that you were parts distribution and began your operation. Looking at your site on the 2015 aerial photograph of property quite clean, and there is no use in non-machinery equipment. Since that time, particularly scrapping out pieces, the price has been down, he's collected so much that you are now a junkyard. You have machinery and equipment all over the place. The parts distribution is coming in light industrial, the salvage yard is not. If you were to require a salvage license, you would no longer work with you during the property audits. You would be forced to file a rezone or a acre parcel. And then if the rezone was approved, you would need to require special use to include data operated on the salvage yard. I would rather you clean up the site, remove all machinery and equipment that you can force to have the property, controlling non-machinery and equipment, cleaning them out, then proper stormwater infrastructure and stormwater quality measures, construct buffer yards and cover large percentage of equipment, and like many is cleaning on this. not doing this has resulted in being required to report to shutting the business down. County Drew's then replied and said, once we get the nose ring exam finalized, we will see if there's improvement. We think from moving parts into the exams and changing the ground building that we have now, I feel there will be very little outside and hopefully all inside. There will be nothing in the roads or on the east side along the further, that is a fact. I can promise you that, and what the east side of the woods clean out by the end of summer. My point in bringing this up is that the narrative has been said in the past part of meetings that he made a mess of this, and that this is not Congress's fault, that writing and doing it was okay, and this, clearly disagrees with that narrative. And I just want to make that known that Mr. Newman was doing the right thing, and I hope you don't hear that he was understanding that Brad had mishandled this. I'm not going to throw Brad Newman under the bus. He tried pretty hard to hammer a square peg into a round hole. And so we break the Christian saying the problem here is that Congress is failed to comply consistently. Then we have the 40 was saying the Anderson zone violation. So they will be out there today at 2 p.m. To take a look at that site. And he's also, the violation is operating during salvage yard and a I-1 zone classification operating a business in unsafe dwellings. The last 2 pages of this, there are 2 emails here between my community. County Drews telling him not to do anything in these ones, not to feel like these ones. They're highlighted and bold. And then again, that really told us May 17, 2021, and another one dated business council November 2022, the last page again telling him not utilizing building at any capacity. And then a week ago last Monday, he appeared before the property tax assessment board and openly declared he is using those buildings to store his parts in. So again, we have another governmental agency giving commands on this business that refuses to comply. And then I would be all for telling you is anticipate the prior plan director Brad Newman and brought his partial compliance as asked in the timely manner. That's where I stand on this. It's been stated that we don't shut a business down. If that is the reason behind your vote today, that is impartial. If you again say that the next business is in violation, we can apply our zoning laws impartially, without bias or prejudice, and this board is going to create this service for the community and to the county. And I did not get sworn in. I do need to do that, and I took a look at my oath when I got on the BBA. And I mean, I can't quote it exactly, but we uphold the Constitution, and we are to carry out our duties on this board impartially, without bias, and to apply zoning laws. And we failed to do it. And we can't just continue to cast the blame on our claim directors. That email surely shows that Brad Newman is trying to do his job, telling you exactly what they need to do. He said he would accomplish that. Breaking efficiency out of the law, and Mr. Drews was called salvage yard, and he had 30 days to appeal that decision before the BPA, and he did not do that. When I look at standing here in lawsuits, I don't see a lawsuit standing on this side of the petitioner. What I do see is the other way around, that we have a community and a neighborhood that we need to think of. There's over 60 people that have signed petitions, and been told there's just a few people in there arguing. There's over 60 names that were given to us, and if you want to disclose after the last meeting, I received another phone call from an individual who came to me for the very first time. It's trying to name it escapes me, but he got my phone number from the auctioneer, Jeff Newman Auctions, and called to express his concerns, the same complaints that they've heard before, so nothing new. But was also concerned why he couldn't speak in the public comment. I just explained that it had already passed in November. I do also want to make the statement that deciding a vote prior to a meeting discussion, trying it seems, is something that we the board should not do because we haven't heard from them. We haven't heard planning director staff report. We can't make that decision. And I just want to put that out there. And considering zoning ordinance, my last comment here is that we have to follow requires the planning commission and legislative bodies to agree with regard to the comprehensive plan, the current conditions and character of structures and uses in each district from which are desirable use in which the land in each district is adapted, conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction and responsible growth and development. And the last one too, I think provide real estate study of true development conditions, like home values, you have excess burning chemical spills, decimal exclusion, removing of influence of view shed, view of junk, industrial operations, and low property values. The rezone does not meet the comprehensive plan, and 31% with our director, very strange. His opinion on that, and it's not the most desirable use in a residential neighborhood. And given the word responsible, I just don't think that's in the particular vocabulary. Their track record with Anderson City now and with our past planning director to comply and bring everything up to compliance has just been completely neglected. So, um, that's pretty much the end of my statements on what I am against the rezone, for those reasons. Just want everyone to have the same information that I've covered in the email to make the vote today. My hope and my prayers with this planning commission is that we simply move the motion and follow those resolutions.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. The amendment I'd like to add that the pond be brought into compliance based on the advice of Miller Contracting and it needs to obey the setback requirement. We would also like for Miller Contracting Company to oversee the job and sign off on it once it's done and completed. We still see work being done on the pond that was supposed to be quote unquote completed a long time ago. Digging trenches alongside the pond. This doesn't make sense. I think that's going on. Number three, create a barrier that is set up, number two, create a barrier that is set up to code between the neighborhood and Ruth Park, the setback for the berms to meet the zoning ordinance. Mature trees need to be planted in the staggered rows so the facility cannot be seen from the neighborhood. The planning commission reviews the right to approve the tree barrier and add more trees if Ruth does not do a sufficient job. Number three, replace trees in the woods and plant grass, remove the tree house and treat the property as a zoning destination. The reason we are in a mess that Ruth Park decided to exercise for right, it's not a and all that. No recreational fishing. ATV use, this is a business, not a playground. Number five, put everything under a roof. This was a recommendation from the last two planning directors, and these orders were agreed to and discussed during several of our planning meetings, and we all voted to approve it moving forward at that time. We want to address the storage unit issue. To obey the ordinance, he should tear it down or correct it, and roofs cannot have a accessory use between the primary use and the front of the property. If he is not going to tear it down, then he should be required to subdivide the part of the property so it is a separate private park. Number eight, number seven, there needs to be some strict attainable deadline with real consequences for this part fails to meet. No more waivers, no more extensions, no more excuses. Number eight, the ordinance will come before the planning commission to be voted on or until the recommendation of this agreement can be completed and signed out. Or to do that. I like those added. Can I get a second?
There's one question I have. If this did get rezoned, and it could go to the BCA, BCA just add those conditions.
If it gets rezoned to heavy industrial, general industrial, it would have to go to the BCA and lawfully operate.
Okay, and if it's not, so if it's not, if this condition, if this, motion is denied, stays the then it will not go.
No, we're not going to BZA. Basically, what would happen is my office would have to work with Drew's Parts to get them in a position where they are in compliance with the existing zoning code. Um, and that could include review of these conditions, although, I mean, typically conditions like that are not going to follow rezoning. You could attach those and put them on the deed where, they have to be adhered to, so that's the way the conditions would fall. But my office would strive then to work those conditions into the overall plan that Bruce had if he chooses to continue the operation in that zone. Basically, if this is not rezoned, then he's gonna have to modify his business in some way, which part of it is in those conditions, like putting everything in closure, and other things to get the property into compliance with light industrial.
I totally agree with the conditions, just trying to figure out the best way to have those conditions in there, whether it should go through the DCA to get those conditions put in there, or is it we as a board here to have those conditions in there at the zoning that it is present.
Like I said, we could put those conditions on the deed, and then the board could direct our office to, I mean, I assume that they would have to, Bruce Parks would have to agree to the conditions.
It is an interplay here between the plan commission.
Right, but it's kind of an overall plan.
What this board does is offer recommendations to the commissioners on what ordinance should be passed with regard to zoning, or should not be
I guess the thinking is why we would want to rezone it versus why we wouldn't.
passed. If you are allowed to put reasonable conditions and/or commitments made by the petitioner as part of your recommendation. And those conditions or commitments become part of the ordinance that's presented to the commissioners. And the commissioners have an up or down vote on that. They may not amend it. They can't change,
We don't like
the plan commission said there should be a 50-foot setback. We think it should be 45. It's up or down, commissioner. So to try to answer your question, this body can add conditions to the zoning change. And the BZA can also add conditions if and when it comes to that.
Right, but if we leave it the way it is, how are those conditions going to be?
Well, the motion has been stated originally, not before possible amendment. As the motion was stated, it was just a check the box. It was, we're going to grant the zoning petition, rezone without any conditions or commitments. So,
Or we don't.
Jeff, I think if you don't rezone it and the conditions are put in the ordinance and they become part of the zoning code, then we would be enforcing those conditions just like the other parts of the zone. That's right. So that's
So the zoning, the conditions are going to be enforced either way.
Well, right, because if you put, and now that you're bringing it up, it's a good point. The conditions, if they're part of the zoning code, then our office would enforce them as part of the zoning code. And so then, if Drew's Parks did not comply with the conditions, then we would start the enforcement process, and eventually it would end up back at the BZA, because that's what's in the enforcement process now. $100 fine, $500 fine, or the BZA. So there's a process that they would eventually end up.
Either way, but the zone.
Well, let me, no, they wouldn't end up in the BZA if it's not rezoned. In other words, if the commissioners decide not to rezone it, then, I think I got myself.
there's no reason on the properties are not.
Right, he has to work to bring into compliance, but the question is, how do we get those conditions
Added to that.
added to that?
My recollection correct. By me doing an amendment to that, we are putting these conditions on there to the commission. The commission will have to, they will either accept or deny these conditions.
You're writing those conditions to his motion.
To his motion. And if it's not added to his motion, then it's just checking the box to do everything more. So we have to add these conditions
if we all agree to 20 conditions, right? No, no. But we're, no, we're gonna have to close it on the recommendation. No, we have to make, no, we can't pass it on to the BZA because it's our job to make that determination here. And then once it comes to the BZA, then the BZA can determine if we want to make additional recommendations.
But only if,
Exactly.
okay, I just wanna make that all clear.
No, that's it. But that's additional. It is additional. Those additional.
If it gets rezoned again.
There's a lot of interplay here, but
No,
what this,
that's why it's
what this body's job is, it is zoning only.
Right.
You ignore the use at this point. I know you can't, they're right in there together. But at this point, you should make your conditions related to the zoning of the property.
Right.
We'll let you change this zoning, but only under these conditions. Then when it comes to the actual use of the property, that, the VCA's thing should be like, well, you can't operate past 7 o'clock. You can't have, your lighting has to be shined at a certain point. That, the VCA's is more toward the special use application. We're more toward the zoning. For any potential use of the zoning, you may sell it tomorrow to a person that wants to get something else in light industrial. You gotta keep that in mind when you're doing that.
Right.
Unlikely, I know, but that's the way the statutes are written. This board is zoning more of a big picture. VCA says, okay, we're gonna do a special use, how are you gonna operate that thing? No, we don't think you should operate past 8 o'clock, not on Sundays.
And that's what, that's good. And that's what those specifications are.
One more clarification. You gave them add to the conditions, they can change the conditions that the commissioners,
VCA cannot change zoning code.
that's what I'm.
All we can do, all the BZA can do is add conditions.
Thank you, I just wanted to clear on that. And
Now, so if somebody wants a waiver from what you do today, they're back in front.
Yeah.
Just for, it may not be finished, but you have to vote on the amendment which has been seconded, the first order amendment, I think it's called. And then if that's added, then we could vote on the original, the motion as amended. But we first have to vote on the amendment which has been seconded.
And all that will go to the commission. Yeah.
Right, and we already have a motion and a second. So John, what we need is a vote to amend the original motion.
Do a roll call or something.
Agreed upon. Yes. That way. So this is first. So this is what was agreed upon from the commission beforehand. Yes.
Those were to be,
Regardless of light industrial or. Yep. Thank you.
okay, is there any other question? I know this is kind of complicated, kind of new.
And confusing.
So basically, what Lindsay is saying that these conditions have already been made in the form of a request.
Been a request, but they've never been actually, he's adding it to your motion.
Yeah, well, I know that, but I'm just trying to,
Fire claim directors have conditions several times to Drew's parts, and fire claim commission unanimously said to do these things. Majority of that list is already approved by this claim commission, maybe prior to them, please do these things, and we never had.
so those commission, those conditions, are they going to be the same condition or the same request that we're going to ask of everybody else? That would be in the same situation that wants to do this type of business. Would they be asked to say that are we changing what is requiring anybody that does this business that we approve it? Is that what we're going to say? Okay, everybody that has this business is going to have to do this. Or they can't enter this kind of business. An account.
No, as I understand, and I'll let Jeff interject, but these conditions would apply to this parcel, to the rezoning of this parcel. So they would be tied to the deed for that parcel. They wouldn't extend to somebody that wants to do something in a general industrial zone
So
that's different.
So basically, Board of Zoning Appeals, is that normally their function, or are we approaching another entity?
So we just went through that, but at the same time, I don't think we will ever have somebody trying to put a junker in the middle of the housing. Right now, this is uncharted territory that we are facing right now. We got a junkyard on the dead smack in the middle of the neighborhood on all four sides. So when we look at this, open honesty, we shouldn't even actually really need hearings situation because nobody would want a junkyard in the middle of the neighborhood. And we are the county. It so happens that this partial of the land of the county is in the middle of the city. So this is, unconditional by all means. And in reality, like I said, this city will be taking place. So light industrial, yes, but a full-fledged junkyard is nowhere. I don't think nowhere in Indiana where junkyard is in the neighborhood. So you look at this, let's look at it reality. On at least sit here, I can honestly say I've probably been more partial as being a resident right there, being probably the most impacted because of the situation. It all lands right in front of my house, all the water, everything. But I have been partially saying, yes, I don't want to close the business down if they take care of things that need to be taken care of. And I have communicated that a million times. I'm not friends with nobody out there. I got neighbors. We disagree on things. My neighbors was mad at me one time for even letting roots continue to keep pumping to get the water out. I had to hear it because I was trying to do what's right for everybody. Now, when I look at this and I see the buddy system being worked, quote unquote, to protect somebody, I don't like that. This is reality. We shouldn't even be hearing this. Nobody wants to live by it. They're all pushed out to where people don't see them. They're eyesores. Their property value decrease. They're everything. Why do you think everybody is right up to try to get their taxes decreased in this area? It impacts us as a whole in the county. I mean, he even went for a tax break on the property that he's trying to purchase. Because he knows he's defending that property. Come on now. Let's not try to be schematic to try to protect somebody. Protect what's right. Do what's right. I put that motion out there just because. In fact, I shouldn't even put that out because we shouldn't even hear it. Honestly.
I want to address Jerry's question before I forget. There is a precedent in other counties I've seen, like we do rezonings and we'll say you can't put a adult books, you can do everything except a adult bookstore or some other use that's allowed in that use. But that does not apply to other projects or anything else. It's related specifically to that parcel. Period. And then finally, on John's thing, just to get back to the discussion, if this is voted down, there's no automatic trigger to send it back to the BZA or these conditions really to get applied unless somehow an agreement is reached with whose parts as part of the negotiation for the general, or for the light investment.
And then there wouldn't be a lot. It'd be harder to get enforcement done.
Well, if he makes an agreement, then the enforcement I would count it as part. But it could be more complicated. It wouldn't have the straight line to the BZA. That's what I think. That's where you were headed. And
Exactly.
took it.
Yes, we're ready for
Before I
a
forget, we're voting on the amendment to Jerry's original motion.
Okay, I have a roll call vote.
Yes. Rob Steele,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepard, Olivia Pratt, and John Zimmerman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Original motion as amended. which has been seconded via that last vote.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, roll call vote.
Awesome. Rob Steele,
This is a favorable recommendation as amended with waive the condition on the budget. Yes.
okay. Denise Spooner,
I just like to explain my vote real quick on that. I'm 100% in agreement of the conditions, but for this rezone, general industrial, I stated before in my past conversation, I would against that. And so, it's not a conflict of interest, it is part of the injury to the neighborhood. So my vote is no on a rezone.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
I'd like to explain my vote as I announced the additions to this. I am 100% against the rezoning of this property nowhere in the state of Indiana, though we have a ton right in the middle of the neighborhood. And that will actually turn, I would say, the growth of that area as well as it will take down the property values of that area, which will directly impact families like mine who use some of that money from their houses to send their kids to college and other avenues. So we are basically taking money from my kids. So no.
Tom Shepard, Olivia Pratt,
I've obviously not been involved with this until this first year. I got from the planning commission. Looking at the history and talking with Larry and looking at what past planning directors have also recommended. Just looking at his long term, it's probably not the best use of time.
and John Zimmerman.
No.
I'd like to put a motion before that we send it to an unfavorable recommendation. With,
That way they pick up and, favorable.
because we have to make a favorable or unfavorable, right? Or neutral. Or neutral, right?
I'm trying,
Unfavorable, we still have the stipulations that they pick it up.
Here's one question that you have, that also, that well, here's another one to throw in the monkey mix here, having the situation with the city of Anderson, not another TPM. And I truly think that we have a business existing over two jurisdictional boundaries. So shouldn't it demand that these two jurisdictions work together to discuss this, perhaps some plans across the board? I prefer to table this, so we hear what the Anderson City is going to do. We don't have enough votes to pass it today anyway, so, maybe we can address that in a situation that came up. And missing members today.
well, the only issue I have with that from a legal standpoint is that the petitioner is entitled to a decision. The petitioner has been waiting for a very long time for a decision. At some point, the petitioner has to get a decision so they can decide what they want to do with that decision. And, I'm not making a judgment here on the merits of the petition, but one of the, you will be sued if you don't make a decision. Not necessarily today. I can't speak for the petitioner. He wants to work with us. But he filed the petition. He's entitled to it today in front of this commission. He's had about a dozen days in front of this commission. So that would be one part of it. Why I recommend we don't table unless we have to. And then the second part of that is that the Anderson jurisdiction is completely separate. It makes sense from a logical standpoint. We work together. But we have zoning jurisdiction over those two parcels. It's our duty to enforce those two without necessarily regard to what another municipality. So I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I would lean a little bit toward not waiting until Anderson decides, because that puts the petitioner in a pretty powerful position with regard to the law not being followed.
That's not one of the votes. Those kind of things, and missing members, and then we use a technical review. and all their extensions granted, extensions granted, extensions were granted for the routes that we brought in compliance. So a lot of the decisions were stable and continue to raise on our part. It was considered a please do what he was supposed to do. I guess I'm just not seeing too much of a liability risk to it again that we may have it because of like
I have a question. How long has Bruce Park actually been in business?
About 2012.
Dealing with this, so that it's from legal situation, the person been in business that long, operating as a looking at, even with the condition, you're looking at, in my opinion, $700,000. Everything that compliance with the condition. So, regardless of we've already discussed this in this body, we just keep fighting. We're out of compliance, so.
I am just thinking this through. This doesn't usually happen, but on unfavorable recommendation, I do not know if the commissioner needs to take your condition. Because what you could do is, you could say, well, we'll give an unfavorable recommendation, but if you do pass the commissioners, part of the condition is you must build a statute tribute to honor the plan commission. You could put things in, a poison pill in there to make it, to effectively take away the legislative powers of the commissioners. I don't think that's what the statute is not. I think an unfavorable recommendation is just that. It's unfavorable, it's that.
But we can't put conditions in.
I think you're playing both sides of it.
Right.
What about neutral?
Typically, we would suggest that if you pass this, you would include these conditions, or if you approve this rezoning.
So how would we communicate that to the commissioners that this is our thought process?
Well, your recommendation form lists all that on. These are, and commissioners generally, and state generally, including this one, I'm generally pretty similar. So generally ask, well, is it unanimous? Obviously, there's one of the three commissioners who was here. It wasn't unanimous, and then were there any other condition on the table? Well, they can be right in there on the ordinance. It states it right on the ordinance.
My fear is what's going to transpire is bucket impact, right? And I don't want to keep continuing taking this down the road and passing it up to somebody else to make a determination where we like to make a determination. I think, some things I think we need to put our foot down and say, hey, this is our job to do, and we need to do our job.
Lindsay, how would you think we could enforce your condition on unfavorable?
That's what I said, I don't know either. I don't think we can. I don't think we can neutral either.
Yeah. Somehow those have those conditions. So we gotta do it one way or the other. We do it, zoning we do it now. The problem is when it went to the DPA, the DPA said it sounded good. And that's what made it work.
Let's go with this, a plain favorable, unfavorable recommendation. We do it.
All right. So I think you have 5 hour recess. I'd like to look into that just a little bit. Can't apply from it, but I think
Sure, I'll do that.
All right.
Thank you. I'll be right back.
Call it legal team.
Well, we have two members of the PCA on this.
It's paused for 5 minutes.
So I would think that
Come on. Come on now. Okay, we should be good. We're good.
Convene?
Yes.
long definition of useful analysis on put those conditions in front of commissioners. Commissioners have a choice of voting no or adopting.
Yes, yes, sir. Same thing.
So Bruce made that motion, I'll second.
Motion is an unfavorable recommendation with the conditions previously described in the original motion made by Jim.
And who seconded that? Has anybody seconded that yet? Okay, thank you. Are we ready for a vote? Or are we doing discussion?
Now,
The discussion on the local bill.
All right. Rob Steele?
No.
Denise Spooner?
Yes.
Jerry Alexander?
No.
Lindsey Brown?
Yes.
Tom Shepard?
No.
Olivia Pratt? John Zimmerman?
Yes. Who is that?
unless the commission would like to pass a neutral on
And you could pass a neutral on what condition?
the. You could.
I make a motion that we table it for one more month. And,
May 9th.
two members not being present. And,
We have a discussion, we have a vote on.
Unless we want to do a neutral. Call for the question and second it.
oh, but,
Yeah. Okay, then need a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Rob Steele? Denise Spooner?
Yes.
Jerry Alexander?
Yes.
Lindsey Brown?
Yes.
Tom Shepard?
You know, this is so stagnant for so long that I gotta go, yes, just don't say yes, it goes on. Yes.
Olivia Pratt? And John Zimmerman?
Yes.
Table to May 9th.
So before we adjourn though, on the issue of coordinating more, talking to the city about this, you're suggesting we should not,
Well, I see nothing wrong with you reaching
so
out.
just see what's going on, okay.
But they don't have any direct authority over us, nor do we have any authority over them.
Okay.
Yeah, what happened to being able to,
At some point, the petitioner can go to court and say, the court will order plan commission. And
But we don't have to vote, we don't have to vote.
or sit here, lock you in a room and say, when we get five, we get five. I mean, that has happened. Once you hit your ninth president, theoretically, you don't have five for one of them. But we haven't had that since last year. Right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who made the motion?
All in favor, say aye. Aye.